Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. So today we are going to be discussing about the topic active and passive voice made easy. So I'll try to make you guys understand what active and passive voice is with quite easy examples without going into the depth, but yeah, you will get a basic understanding from what an active voice is and what a passive voice is. So let's jump right into the video. Okay, what is voice? Okay, so voice is nothing but a verb that is going to describe whether the subject is the one who is performing the action or if the subject is the one who is receiving the action. Okay, hope you understood it. Subject, yes, we might have learned that subject is always the doer of the action, but the subject may also be the talking term in a sentence. It means that the subject has received an action upon it. So it is not doing it, but it is receiving an action. Okay. So in order to differentiate this, we are using active voice and passive voice. So there are two types of voices. One is your active voice and the other one is your passive voice. And in active voice, the subject will be the doer of the action, which means the subject is going to do something. Okay. Whereas in passive voice, the subject is the one on which the action is performed. So the subject is not going to do anything, but on the subject, an action is performed. An example of that is the teacher explains the lesson. So the explanation is given by the teacher. Okay, so the teacher is the doer of the action, hence, this one is an active voice. Whereas, look at example number two, the lesson is explained by the teacher. So the lesson is not explaining, right? The lesson is a subject, but it is being explained by someone else. Okay, so the subject is receiving an action. What action it is receiving? Explanation. Okay, it is being explained. So that is the action that is being received by the lesson, and the action is actually done by who? The teacher. Okay, so you can see how the sentence structure is formed. We'll see that in detail in the next slide, but hope you have understood the difference between active and passive voice here. So look at the sentence structure in the active voice. You have your subject, you have your verb, and you have your object, which is your typical sentence formation, right? The subject is the doer of the action. So here she was singing a song. What was she doing? She was singing. Singing is the verb over here. Okay. And who was singing? She. She was performing the action. So she is your subject over here. And what was she singing? A song. That is your object. Okay. Hope the active part of the sentence is clear. Now, listen carefully. We are going to convert that active voice into a passive voice. So, here, firstly, we are identifying the object. Who is the object over here? A song. So, on the song is only an action is performed, which is singing, right? So, a song will become the subject in your passive voice, and singing, she was singing, would become was being sung. Okay, so here you can see that the tense is past continuous, was singing. And when you convert it into passive voice, the tense should always remain the same. Okay, so was plus being, because you cannot write verb in continuous form over here. In in passive voice, your verb would always be in V3 form, which is your past participle form. But the tense is in continuous tense. So how would you balance it? By adding being. Okay, So was being, and the verb in active voice is sing. So when it turns into passive voice, it will become. I mean, we are supposed to write it in past participle form. So it is sung. A song was being sung by whom? Who is the doer of the action? She. So it would become by her. Okay, and this is optional. Okay, by her, you can um, you can talk about the subject in passive voice, or you may omit the doer of the action as well. That is possible in passive voice. So we will learn about it in the upcoming slides. So what are the rules for conversion? First rule is to identify the object in the active sentence, right? Just like we did in the previous slide, where song was our object, we identified it. Okay, and next, use the auxiliary verbs according to the tense. Yeah, this is pretty important. Okay, if the sentence is in present tense, then when we are converting it to passive voice, it should be in simple present only. If it was in past continuous, then when we are converting it into passive voice, then the sentence must be in past continuous only. And how would we do that? By making sure we add auxiliary verbs such as is, are, was, were, has been, have been. Okay, and was being, are being. Okay, being. In terms of continuous tenses, you would be frequently using being. Okay, and third rule is to add the past participle of the main verb. No matter what the tense is, when you are converting a sentence from active to passive voice, the main verb should always be in its past participle form. Okay, and finally, as I said earlier, you can include by whom the action was done. Okay, by the subject. If I'm talking about the structure over here, but these are optional. Okay, you can see some examples over here. So look at the first sentence. She writes a letter. Okay. What tense it is in? It is in simple present tense, right? She writes a letter. So when we are converting this into the passive voice, writes means it is in simple present. So when we are converting it into passive, it will become is, right? Simple present. So we are writing is because we are talking about the object a letter. A letter is a singular noun. Okay, we are talking about one letter. So one letter, hence we are using is. And what is the verb over here? Writes. Okay, and we learned that the main verb should always be in its past participle form. So write would become written. So we are identifying the object or letter, and then according to the subject, we are choosing an auxiliary verb which supports singular nouns is, and the verb is written in um, past participle form, which is written, and then who was writing the letter? She, right? So when it comes to turning she into passive voice, it would become by her. If it is he, then it would become by him. If it is they write a letter, then it would become a letter uh, is written by them. Okay, hope that makes sense. And in past continuous form, you can see that he was reading a book. The verb is in ing form, right? So, what is the object over here? A book. A book is your object. A book is a singular noun, right? But the tense is in past form, right? So, it is a past continuous tense. So here you'd not be using is. Instead, the past form of is was. So a book was, hence it is in the continuous tense, which is reading, ing, ing form. So you're using being over here. And the past participle form of your main verb read is read. Okay, yes, it's read, read, and read. I mean, the spelling is similar for all three tense forms. So, I mean, verb forms. So, here a book was being read. Who was doing the action? He. So, it is by him. And next, you have your future perfect tense. They will have completed it. Okay, they're talking about some action, and that action has been completed. Okay, so the action, it, okay, and it could have been a task, the it would mean any kind of assignment. Okay, so it is your object here. In passive sentence it becomes the subject it, and the tense form in our active voice is will have completed, right? Will have completed, it is in future perfect tense. And when you are converting it into your passive sentence, it will become will have been completed. Okay, it will have been completed, and who would have done the action? They. So when you turn that into passive voice, it becomes by them. Okay, so when do you particularly use active and passive voices? We learned what an active voice is, we learned what a passive voice is, and how we'll have to frame sentences. Okay, you learned how active voices sentence structure would be, and you learned how passive voices sentence structure would be. But now, when to use them? Okay, so active voice is used when the subject is important and you just want to make a simple direct sentence. Active voice gives more clarity than passive voice. If you are wondering why for clarity and directness is there in the slide, yes, active voice gives more clarity because there is a subject, there is an, I mean, the subject is the doer of the action. So you get a uh, fully informed sentence when it comes to active voice. If you want me to put it in a straight way, in active voice you get a fully structured sentence. So you can look at the example: the chef cooked a delicious meal. Okay, so there's this chef and he his action was cooking, and what did he cook? He cooked a delicious meal. Okay, but passive voice is used when the object is more important. Okay, I don't care. I don't care who did the action. I just want to know if that action was completed or not. I don't want to know who completed the action, and that is irrelevant. If that is the scenario, then passive voice is used. Okay, I don't want to know who cooked the meal. I just want to know the meal was cooked or not. In that scenario, you would use passive voice. A delicious meal was cooked. Okay. Here you can see that there is no subject. No subject means there is no doer of the action over here. Just you have a subject which received an action, and that action was being cooked. Okay, a delicious meal was cooked. So, what are the common mistakes when people try to frame active and passive voices? Firstly, people tend to omit auxiliary verbs, which are your helping verbs. Okay, they forget to add is, they forget to add have, they forget to add will have. Okay, if that is the scenario, then the whole passive voice thing doesn't work. It would become another active voice, and this active voice will not make any sense. Okay, you can take a look at the example given in the incorrect sentence. The report prepared by the team. Just read the first two words, first three words. The report prepared, which means the report is the subject, and the report is preparing something. Does that make sense? Report is a non-living thing. How can it perform an action? Okay, so the report prepared doesn't make sense. By the team means the action was done by the team. So it makes sense in the second half that it is an passive voice, but in the first half of the sentence, it looks like active voice, right? So you must never, never avoid auxiliary verbs. So here the action is already complete, which means the sentence is simple past. Hence, we are using was. The report was prepared, and we are talking about one single report over here. Hence, it is a singular noun, so was is used. The report was prepared by the team. And people tend to use wrong tenses. Okay, that is also incorrect. Look at the example. A letter wrote by her. A letter wrote by her. Wrote is past tense, right? A letter wrote means a letter. Imagine a letter is a human being and it wrote. Again, it doesn't make sense. It looks like a active voice in the first half and passive voice by her means passive voice in the second half, which is again wrong. So a letter was written by her, and passive voice would always have past participle form of the verb, which is was written. Okay, and overusing passive voice to frame sentences that are direct, you're not supposed to use passive voice too much. As we said earlier, active voice brings out the clarity, whereas passive voice doesn't. Right? Look at the example. The decision was made by the manager. It was communicated by mail. So, if you see the first sentence, it kind of looks complicated, right? You are writing who did the action and what the action was. Okay, and you also have the object in which the action was performed, which is your decision. You can write that in simple active voice since you are adding the subject also. Then, I mean, subject means the manager, which is your doer of the action. You are adding it. You can write that in active voice itself. If there is no doer of the action mentioned, then active voice is not possible. Then the sentence would have made sense without the manager in it. For example, the decision was made, it was communicated by email. This these two sentences give you the clarity, but the decision was made by the manager is complicating things. If you are going to mention the subject, if the doer of the action has more importance, then you better write that in active voice. So this could have been made less complicated by writing the manager made the decision, okay, and it was communicated by email. Who did the emailing is not important over here, hence we are using passive voice. It was communicated by email. Okay, so that is it for today's class. Now you have got your activity. I will help you solve it. We have like three activities planned for you today. So two of the activities I would help you, and third activity you are supposed to do it on your own. Yes, I did give you the answers, but please don't try to cheat. So solve it and then you can go and look into the answers. So let's get into our activity number one, which is identifying the voice. Okay. So I have, yes, I have given you four sentences, and now our activity is to identify whether the sentence is active or whether the sentence is passive. So look at the first sentence. The cake was baked by my sister. Okay, the cake was baked, which means the cake, the subject, has received an action. And what action is that? Was baked. Okay, it was baked. And who did the action? By my sister. So obviously, here the subject is the receiver of the action, and whoever did it is mentioned using by, right? So it is a clear cut passive sentence. Second one, he solved the problem quickly. So what is the action happening over here? Solved. Problem is solved. Okay, so solved is the action happening over here, and who solved it? He. So the subject is the one who is performing the action over here. Hence, it is an active voice. Third, a new law will be introduced next month. Okay, a new law will be introduced. So, is the new law performing an action? No. A new law is in which an action is performed. What is the action? Introducing. Okay, introduce is the action over here, and this introduce would be performed on the new law. So the subject is in the receiver end. Okay, the subject is not doing the action, but the subject is in the receiver end. And have they mentioned about who is going to introduce? No, it is not mentioned. Okay, so you must not think that only if by my sister or by my father or by the judge, by the senator, if only there is a by in the sentence, then it's passive voice. No, sometimes the passive voice will not have the subject. Okay, I mean, will not have by the subject. Okay, so here it is passive. And fourth one, they are building a new mall. So what is the action? Building. And who is building? They. Okay, so the subject is performing action over here, hence it is active voice. Let's move on to activity number two, which is a sentence is given and we are supposed to change the sentence to a particular voice that is being given in the bracket. Okay, so we have got three sentences. The cat chased the mouse. What sentence is this? The cat chased. Chased is your action over here, and who is doing the action? The cat. Hence, it is an active voice. So, we are supposed to change that into the passive voice. So, identify the object. Who is the object over here? The mouse is the object. So, the object becomes the subject in passive voice. The mouse. And what is the verb over here? Chased. It is in simple past tense. So when you convert simple past tense of active voice into passive voice, it becomes was chased because the object over here is the mouse and the mouse is a singular noun. So the mouse was chased, and who did the action? The cat. So it is written as by the cat. Simple, right? Second one, the homework is completed by the students. The homework is completed by the students. So the homework is the receiver of the action over here. So it is a passive sentence, and we are supposed to change that into active form. Okay. So the answer is who is the object over here? The students. Okay, so the students are performing the action, so the object becomes the subject in active voice, the students. And what are they doing? I mean, what did they do? They completed the homework. Okay, so the students, and it is written in is. If it is was completed, then while writing it in the active form, it would be written as completed. But is completed means it is in present form. Okay, it is in a simple present tense. So you write complete. The students complete the homework. Okay, and third one, the novel has been written by her. Okay, the novel is your subject, and the subject is receiving an action which is being written. Okay, so it is a passive voice, and we are supposed to change that into active voice. Okay, who is the subject of, I mean, who is the object in the initial sentence? It is by her. So by her, when you convert it into active voice, it becomes she. So she has written the novel. Has been written is in present perfect, right? So when you convert present perfect passive into present perfect active, it becomes has written. Okay, so has written, and what has she written? The novel. So the novel becomes the subject in your active voice. Okay, so the last activity is for you to complete. Have four sentences for you, and I have given you the verbs. You must identify if the sentence is in active form or if the sentence is in passive form. According to that, you must introduce the verb in that sentence along with its auxiliary verb, along with its, uh, you know, being or being, whatever is appropriate to that sentence, and you have to introduce the verb in past participle form if it is in passive voice, and if it is in active voice, then you are supposed to uh, v1, v2, v3, or ing forms according to that sentence. You're supposed to do that. Okay, and as usual, I have the answers given in this slide. Okay, but don't try to look at this, complete this, and then you can figure out the answers from here. Okay. I know the topic was quite dense today, but hope it made sense. So, just to summarize everything, active voice is used when the subject is given more importance, and active voice is very direct. Okay, it gives you more clarity than passive voice. It is very direct, and here the doer of the action is given importance, whereas in passive voice, the object or the action is given more importance, and uh, whoever does it, or whoever has already done it, it it is not important. We just want to know if the action was completed, and if the object has received a particular action or not, and whoever is doing that is of less importance. Okay. So, and yeah, appropriate tenses are supposed to be used during conversion, or else it would look like another active sentence which is poorly built. Okay. And if you want the sentence to have more clarity, then always, always, always go for active voice rather than going for passive voice. Okay. And hope you had a good session today. And if you have any doubts, or if you have any suggestions, or if you have any interest on certain topics, please do let us know, and we will try to make a video on that. Thank you so much for your time, and have a great rest of the day.